when you start to read Nietzsche, you start finding Nietzschean ideas in lots of places. And a great joy I have is sort of identifying, comparing, contrasting different articulations of some of the philosophical ideas that one might find in Nietzsche. And it's interesting from the perspective of seeing how the same ideas might have been like simultaneously discovered at different times by different people, or the same ideas find different articulations, and of course the differences between them and the different articulations. And so one such articulation of a very Nietzschean perspective that just is so powerful and compelling is from the character of Lord Henry in The Picture of Dorian Gray by Oscar Wilde. This is towards the beginning of the book. At this point, Dorian Gray is sitting for his portrait, and he's talking at the time with Lord Henry. And Lord Henry shares his philosophy to Dorian Gray. He says, "The aim of life is self-development, to realize one's nature perfectly. That is what each of us is here for." Okay? And already this juncture, I hear the echoes of like this Nietzschean virtue ethics, this self-actualization perspective. And he continues, "People are afraid of themselves nowadays. They have forgotten the highest of all duties, the duty that one owes to oneself. Of course they are charitable. They feed the hungry and clothe the beggar, but their own souls starve and are naked." Okay? I find that so Nietzschean, this sort of disdain for the kind of Christian morality that we sort of find ourselves surrounded by, this clothing of the beggar, this feeding of the hungry, the way in which there's something lost in that kind of Christian charity. There's something more fundamental which is being overlooked. He continues, "Courage has gone out of our race. Perhaps we never really had it. The terror of society, which is the basis of morals, the terror of God, which is the secret of religion, these are the two things that govern us." Okay, again, very Nietzschean, this idea that morality is born out of fear. Skipping ahead, "And yet," continued Lord Henry, "I believe that if one man were to live out his life fully and completely, were to give form to every feeling, expression to every thought, reality to every dream, I believe that the world would gain such a fresh impulse of joy that we would forget all the maladies of medievalism and return to the Hellenic ideal." And we'll stop there. We're jumping ahead in time here. First of all, thank you, Lukash, for lending me a copy of The Picture of Dorian Gray. What's interesting to me, of course, is how the ideas are similar and also how they're dissimilar. So both Oscar Wilde and Nietzsche were writing in the decade leading up to 1890. Oscar Wilde writing in Ireland, Nietzsche writing in Germany. According to ChatGPT, it's very unlikely that Oscar Wilde read any Nietzsche. Nevertheless, we can say, just as a manner of speaking, that Lord Henry's ideas sort of sound like a shallow reading of Nietzsche. They sound Nietzschean, but they sound Nietzschean in the way a lot of modern stereotypes or distillations of Nietzschean ideas sound, because there's so much missing from that representation. In The Picture of Dorian Gray, Lord Henry is kind of a corrupting character. He's a cynical character. He's not a very likable character. And he's missing so much of what makes Nietzsche special. In his philosophy, there's none of that love, that joyousness, which so permeates Nietzsche's writing. Nietzsche is all about love of self, love of life, amor fati, love of fate. Nietzsche in Thus Spoke Zarathustra is full of a deep sense, a deep joyous innocence. He romanticizes the sort of innocence of a child, and he wouldn't worship any god other than a god who dances and a god who plays. And I think this sort of context is necessary for putting together the full picture, the full constellation in which Nietzsche's ideas about virtue ethics make sense. And so in conclusion, the invitation here is for you to fully actualize your life and also to be wary of sort of shallow readings of Nietzsche.